Welcome to the webinar. This is Mary Beth Kosmeski. I am the president of Red Zone Marketing, and today we are doing this webinar on social media. So I would imagine if most of you on the call were to think about how you feel about social media, it would not be super positive. It would be something like, I wish it never came about. I wish I didn't have to worry about this as a financial advisor. But the reality is it's here. So what do we do about it? And I think that's the big question. I think the biggest challenge with social media today for financial advisors is this. What do I do about it? Am I supposed to be posting every day? Is that actually going to give me any business? Do I have to hire somebody to do all this stuff? How much is that going to cost? I mean, it's all of these questions. And at the end of the day, we have to think about why we would do it, and that would be because it was going to make us some money. It was going to be good for us in some way. So that's what really we're going to talk about today. What is the real deal with social media? Do we have to be doing it? And if so, what is the bare minimum of what we should do? And what can we do if we really want to excel in social media and use it as a tool to bring in new business? So if you ask yourself the question, are people Googling me? I mean, do they actually Google me? Well, your clients aren't Googling you. They shouldn't be, but your prospects are. And if your prospects are Googling you, what do you think they're going to find? In fact, the statistics are, in case you think, well, my prospects really aren't Googling me, is that 9 out of 10 of your prospects, of people that have been referred to you, people that have heard something about you, will Google you before they come in and see you. And the statistic is that if they have $1 million or more in investable assets, it's 10 out of 10. Because why wouldn't they? It's not like you've got to hire a private investigator. You lean to your computer, you punch in the advisor's name, and voila, something comes up. And so there's some good news and some not so good news about that. The good news is it's a great way for people to find you. You don't have to hand out your brochure anymore, obviously. They can find you quickly. The bad news is, what are they finding? It can be, because it maybe is not, maybe they find a website that's out of date, or maybe they find nothing about you at all because you've stayed away from your online presence, and there's reasons to do that. But today, more than anything, we need to get exposure, and we need to be where people are and where they expect you to be. So 9 out of 10 people are Googling you. If they have real money, it's 10 out of 10. So what we have to think about is, it's not your reputation. We've built our reputations over the entirety of our career. So we've built this really great reputation. Your clients know how good you are. Your strategic alliances know how good you are. People in the community, they know how good you are. But your online reputation, meaning what they find out about you, and I'm not talking about negative posts and comments. I'm just talking about what they find about you. That's what we'll talk about. Where do they need to find you? But if they don't find something that is positive, they will not necessarily move through and move forward and contact you and reach out. In fact, today, and this is in some ways very disappointing to some financial advisors, your online reputation can supersede your real reputation. And so we can't allow that to happen. We can't work so hard in this industry and be as good as you are and then not be able to follow through and just make sure we've got the things up online that are going to truly attract people to you in a good way. Now, I know there's a lot of comments and concerns about compliance. Can I do this with compliance? My compliance department is very difficult. And at Red Zone Marketing, we've worked with advisors from just about every single broker-dealer, know their compliance rules, and this presentation is designed to be compliance friendly, meaning that the things that I'm going to talk about are going to work with any compliance department today. And if you have a compliance department that says that this won't work, I wonder, because I've never seen a compliance department that has not at least come to this point where we have to make sure we've got a really great presence. And so that's what we'll talk about. I don't know if you knew, but 85% of new clients for top performing financial advisors actually come from current client referrals. And so why do I put this up here? What does this have to do with social media? Well, people that were referred to you are the 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 that are going to be looking for you online. We don't buy a refrigerator today without Googling it. We don't just walk into stores and buy things. And if we're thinking about investing our life savings with a financial advisor, we're probably going to do just a little bit of online research. And so are your best prospects and referrals and potential alliances, are they actually Googling you? And I think that the answer is that they are. And so if you think, well, is it everyone? It's really everyone. Even your potential strategic alliances are Googling you. And so what is it that we need to do? So I'm going to talk about 3 principles today. Now I'm going to go through this quickly, but we are recording this, so you will get an email, I think, in a couple hours after this webinar, which will have a recording that you can listen to and watch afterwards if you would like, or share it with somebody else. So 3 principles we'll go through as to why you need to be considering social media and what exactly you need to be doing when you're on social media. And the first thing is, and it's a very obvious, especially for a marketing person, but this is a great way to gain exposure. This is a great way for people to find you, and you can control the reputation. You can control the message when you put your own profiles out on social media. So it's really designed to maximize your presence. And for the most part, some broker-dealers charge you a little bit of money so that they can archive all of the things that are happening on social media. But for the most part, it's free. And it's one of those things where if it's almost free, we probably should at least figure out what we should be doing. So what does your best prospect see when they come online? So if we know that they're going online to look at you, and they do a little Google search and they find John Smith here, and John Smith he's been highly referred, but they come to this particular LinkedIn profile and they wonder, I wonder if he's still in business. I wonder if he's active in this business anymore. I mean, when you look at a profile like this, it looks like maybe this got set up by accident. It doesn't have a picture. It doesn't have really anything much going on. It doesn't tell me anything. And here's a reality that is disappointing in some respects, but people are actually finding reasons to not go and see a financial advisor. It's like going to the dentist. Well, my tooth doesn't hurt anymore, so I'm not going to go in and get that checked, because it's kind of, you think there's going to be some pain associated with that. And I think that's the same thing when you go and see a financial advisor. Well, I've made some mistakes in my financial life, and I don't care how wealthy you are, you've made some mistakes in your financial life. Well, I've made some mistakes in my financial life, and this person might judge me, and I've got to say something to them about what I've done, and maybe I haven't saved enough, or whatever it is that you might be having some self-talk about. These are the reasons that we don't want to go in and see a financial advisor, and we will come up with reasons not to do it. This, a bad LinkedIn profile, which doesn't say anything about you, is a really good reason to say, you know what, it just doesn't look like this person. Maybe they're not very technologically advanced. I need an advisor who understands those things. Whatever the case is, again, as I said, your online reputation can supersede your real reputation. And we can't allow that to happen because it's so easy to fix this. So what if instead they came to your LinkedIn profile and they found this? It was a banner behind, a nice picture. It had all sorts of information about where you went to school and what you're doing right now. And it makes me think this is a person that I should want to perhaps at least consider doing business with. There's nothing about this that's turning me off. And there's nothing about this that's negative. And this is typically what somebody can see if they're not connected to you and if they're not on LinkedIn. So either if they're not on LinkedIn or they're not connected, they can see this. And this is a pretty good presence of what you can put together for yourself. Very easy to do, not difficult at all. So here's another statistic. I've given a lot of statistics so far, but 80% of the reason that a prospect chooses to do business with you is because inside the circle, they're choosing to do business with you. Now, they're choosing to do business in the 20% of the reason they're choosing it is maybe your broker-dealer or your company or your location or something outside of the person that they're actually meeting with. 80% of the reason they choose to do business with you is actually because of you. It's something that you've done, that you've said. It's something about you that they think they might be able to trust. It's things that we don't necessarily verbalize, but 80% of the reason is you. So social media is a great place to give them a little bit more of you. And we can help them overcome this idea that coming in to see you is really not going to be that much fun. It doesn't have to be fun and games, but it certainly can be softened up. And how do you soften that up? You talk about who you are. So this is a LinkedIn profile from a financial advisor. And and it was really interesting because he had something in his past that led him to write this profile. And what he said was, well, when I was growing up, I knew I would always be in some kind of business related to finances. And I said, well, why is that? He said, well, when I was a kid, my father and my uncle were doing something that, they were renowned physicians, but they were doing some things with our money that caused us to lose everything. They invested all of the money into one steel stock in Pittsburgh. We lost everything. And he said, I had to move from my house. I had to leave my friends. I had to leave my private school. It was really, really damaging to me as a kid. And as a kid, he said to himself, well, I'm going to do one thing when I grow up, and that's to help others avoid the problem that my father and my uncle have created. And so it was to become a financial advisor, although he didn't really know that at the time. And so I said, are you telling this story? And he said, well, I really don't tell the story, because I think he thought perhaps that it didn't make him a better financial advisor. And technically, it doesn't make him a better financial advisor. It makes him a real person who understands. I guarantee if you were a physician and you make $750,000 a year, and maybe you made a few bad business deals along the way in some of the investments that you've made or whatever it might be, you're not going to be judged by this guy. And when you read this profile, you know that. And the interesting thing is once he put this profile up, guess who started calling him more? Physicians. And it wasn't that he wasn't working with physicians at all. He was getting referrals. He was working with physicians. But he was working with more after this went up because of what happened when someone read this. It made them think, I should go and do business with this person, as opposed to, I already have a financial advisor. I don't want to take the time to make a move or something like that. So a LinkedIn profile, the summary section of your LinkedIn profile, which is right at the top underneath your picture on your LinkedIn profile, can warm people up to what it is that you want them to know about you. And I think we do that by answering the question, why are you in this business? Or why are you still in this business? If you've been in this business for more than a few years, this is not the easiest business to be in, and it's not getting any easier. And if you think about that, well, why do you stay? Well, there's a lot of meaning in this business. There's a lot of meaning in the ways that you can help your clients and your prospects, and all the things that you've been able to do these are probably the reasons why you stay in this business. And I think if we start talking about this, why are you in this business, that story tells a little bit more about you, and 80% of the reason they choose you is you. Let's get them into your office by giving them just a little bit more of the inside and the insight of you. So here's another LinkedIn example. This is from a financial advisor, and she was a financial advisor who had her profile, which looked like number one. We manage the financial affairs of our clients and their families. And this is her LinkedIn summary section profile. And, I said, well, what do you really want people to know? She goes, well, I want people to know that I care. She goes, I know that I care more than every other person that is in my office, other advisors that happen to be housed with her. She goes, I know I care more, but I can't just say I care more. That doesn't really make any sense to say that. It would sound weird. And I said, well, tell me about your background. And so she said, well, I started off as a nurse. That was my bachelor's degree. And I said, well, wait a minute. You don't have nursing in your LinkedIn profile. You don't even have that listed as what you got your bachelor's degree in. She said, well, it doesn't really impact my work as a financial advisor, so I figured I wouldn't put it in. And I said, but there's absolutely no way that people will think that you don't care if you were a nurse. Nurses care. I don't know a nurse who doesn't care. That's why you get into that particular business. And so sometimes it's telling a little bit more about your background and a little bit more about your story. So the second thing we'll talk about is how do you engage with your target audience? How do you actually engage with your target audience when you're on social media? Well, the first question you need to ask is, where is your target audience? So if you say, well, I've got to be on LinkedIn, and I've got to be on Facebook, and I've got to be on Twitter. And I'll say, well, why do you have to be on all of those social media sites? Well, because that's where my prospects are. Well, are they? And some of the times, like if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you've got Microsoft in your backyard and other things like that, you probably need to be on Twitter. But if you're someplace else where you're working with people that are getting ready to retire or have retired, maybe Twitter isn't the place. And so you have to really investigate where your prospects are. And how do you do that? Well, ask them. Hey, are you on social media? Yeah, you ask your clients, where are you? Are you on social media anywhere? And I would ask a client that looks like a new particular client that you might get. So it looks like your prospect that you're asking this question to. You don't ask your 85-year-old client, where are you? Because they're probably not anywhere. But your 65-year-old prospect might be somewhere. And let's find out where that person is, and then we can focus our efforts in those areas. Because otherwise it seems like we spend a lot of time doing and posting and doing things, but our audience isn't even there. And so then to consider, okay, so we've got these people who are perhaps going to be interested in the content that we're going to post. And then the question really is, well, are they going to be interested in this content? So we connect with people, and then we find out, are they interacting with this content? Now, there is a way to do social media without ever posting any content. You can be on LinkedIn and use it very effectively without ever posting any content. But if you want to be raised up, and if you want your exposure to increase, then posting things on social media will help. Why? Because if I go onto LinkedIn today, I will see a news feed of all the people that I'm connected to that have recently posted. And I kind of scroll through it and look. I don't spend a lot of time doing that, but I'll kind of scroll through it a little bit, and I'll see the people that are posting. And I might just see their name. I might click on and read their article, but it's the exposure. It's the reminder that that person is out there. And that sometimes is very helpful. And of course, good content is helpful as well. So posting content is very easy to do on LinkedIn. It's also very easy to do on Facebook and also on Twitter. But as we talk about posting content on LinkedIn, it's just really easy. You go, you post, you have, and apparently, if you think about all of the content that's available, 60% of financial advisors are posting content that has been already developed, meaning that you've gotten it from FMG, or you've gotten it from your website provider, advisor websites, or you've gotten it from your broker dealer or from some other place. And so the content is pre-approved and it's already out there. And so most advisors are using that because it makes it easy. It's pre-approved. You can just literally hit a button and post. The question then is, well, is that good content? And I think you really have to look through it and determine whether you think it would be interesting to your target market. And in a lot of cases, there's lots of interesting articles that are available. You don't have to write them yourself. They're available. They're already out there. And I would start with posting things, if you haven't done this already, on a regular basis, maybe once a week or something like that, just to kind of get the feel for doing that and see who is actually connecting with you. Are people reading it? Are they clicking on it? Because then you can get some insights, which we'll talk about in a minute, that will help you then further select your content, because you just want people to see it. It's an exposure tool. Someone is not going to click on your post and decide that they want to do business with you. But they may have already been thinking about doing business with you, and the post that you place on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that might just remind them, oh yeah, that's right, I wanted to get in touch with that person. And again, it doesn't really cost anything at all to do this. It's just having the system to do it, and there's a way that you can do it that's fairly set it and forget it. So here's another thing, and this almost should have been first as we talked about your target market. So you've got a target market and you know that they're on LinkedIn, for instance. Well, if I go on LinkedIn and I look at who you're connected to, if I pull up your name and I see who you're connected to, because it'll pop up the people that I'm connected to that you're also connected to. And so now we've got some people in common. And if I think those people that we have in common are pretty good people, I might think the same of you. And maybe I don't know you at all, but this actually will extend the way that I think about you. Connections today, especially on LinkedIn, are like the new referrals. Because if I see that I've got 30 people that are also connected with you and I don't know you, maybe I should know you. Maybe there's something there. Maybe I should reach out and contact you. And so it's giving people the idea that this is really good. It's almost like testimonials, but of course we cannot use testimonials in financial services. We cannot use them on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter. Just seeing who you're connected to says something about you. So what I would suggest is don't connect with a bunch of other financial advisors. And if you are connected to a bunch of other financial advisors, I would disconnect with them unless there's a really good reason, like you're doing some strategic partnering or something. But try connecting with people in your community, people that are well connected already with your target market. And a lot of times people, even if they don't know you that well, they will accept your connection for sure on LinkedIn. Now, Facebook is much harder to get, especially for a financial advisor, to get people to connect with your business page. Your personal page, not so hard. Your business page, people think, I wonder if he's going to try to sell me something. And nobody wants to be sold anything, so there's a little bit of flags raised when we see a financial advisor on Facebook. But it's okay, because you can, if you have things that are there and you can share to people, hey, I'm posting things that are good information, valuable content, when we're having an event, if something's happening in the economy or the market, just interesting things, and it's not, and you let them know that this isn't going to be what they think it's going to be, it's actually going to be valuable. They might connect with you there too. So the third thing we'll talk about today is how, for those of you that are already using social media, and even for some of you that aren't and you're looking for a new way to prospect, how do we really find new people today? Well, I think that prospecting using social media is one of the very, very best tools that social media presents to us, because there was no way, and if there was, it was expensive 10 years ago or 15 years ago, to get access to all of the contacts and all of the people that you can get access to through social media. So I have a client that, and I've got many stories about this, but I have a client that had a nurse anesthetist, a CRNA, as a client. And this CRNA was someone that was connected to lots of other CRNAs. And so he started, through referrals, doing business with more CRNAs. And he thought to himself, well, why don't I try to join their group on LinkedIn? Because if he joins their group on LinkedIn, then he has access to the contacts and to the people that are there. And not to try to direct sell them or anything like that. Of course, you could do that. But more realistically, maybe if he was speaking, which he does, speak at the nurse anesthetist's local association, he can post, hey, I'm going to be speaking in Charlotte next week, or I'm going to be speaking here. Here's the topic that I'm talking about. He's writing articles for CRNAs specifically on managing their finances for CRNAs, and he posts that information to the group. There's all sorts of things that you can do that will allow you to keep that exposure and show. So for niches, you can show how connected you are with their issues and their concerns. And so joining groups on LinkedIn is a really good thing to do. Most compliance will allow you to do it. Some have more restrictions on the conversations that you can have within the group. But again, you can get access to all of their contacts, and you could try to connect with each and every one of them if you wanted to, which is one way of then being able to start up some conversation with them. So how do you find connections? Now, LinkedIn has stopped this. They've started it again. You can actually search the connections of your connections. So if I have a friend of mine that's a CEO, and I want to see all the other CEOs that he knows, and I can go into his connections and I can search on CEOs in Chicago, or I can, I can make it a little bit broader if I need, and it will come up with a bunch of people. Now I can use that in a couple different ways. One is I could try to reach out to those people. Two is I could call my friend and say, hey, I know that you know a bunch of CEOs and in the Chicago area, and I'd love to get some introductions to some of them. Now you can use this as your intelligent resource. You can say, well, Woody Marshall is a CEO at XYZ company, and I'd really love an introduction to him. Could you do that? And he'd be like, yeah. You don't even have to say that you were creeping on his LinkedIn. We don't like to call it creeping, but that's actually what you could look at it like. But it's out there. It's available. Why wouldn't we use it? I've got a lot of advisors who will hire an intern who can then sort of scrape through this data and find me. You could also do general searches. So I want to find people that work at AbbVie in North Chicago, and I want to be able to see their where they live or other information, where they went to school. I can find all sorts of information about people, and then I can use that information to then market to them. So we have a financial advisor that decided that they were going to start a seminar for one particular aspect of the marketplace. They were going to do a seminar just for people that were getting ready to retire from a large company. And so you can search for people that work at that large company because they're mostly on LinkedIn. So you search for people that are, at that company. You can search for other things related to their age and things like that. And then you can cull the list, meaning that you can say, okay, I'm going to try to connect with these people. If they connect back with you, you not only have access to them in a good way through LinkedIn, but you also will have access to their contact information, oftentimes their phone number, oftentimes their email address, if you're connected with them. And that allows you another way of being able to reach out, invite them to a seminar you're doing on what to know before you retire from XYZ big company. And you do it right, so they leave their office building and it's right across the street. They can walk over there, go to the seminar, and we're only inviting people that are getting ready to retire from that particular company. Well, how do we get those names? We can get those names today on LinkedIn. And so it's super valuable to be able to do searches like that. And in order to do a lot of searches, you may want to think about, there's different, and I'll talk about this in a second, but there's different ways that you can reach out to people. One is you can do an in-mail, which is you can reach out to anybody on LinkedIn, even if you're not connected with them, and invite them to come to a seminar, invite them to come to something, invite them to connect with you. But you only have so many that you can use unless you buy a premium account at LinkedIn, which we'll talk about in a second. But one of the other things that you can do with, you start developing these connections. Now, what do I do? People often ask me, what should I send to people? Well, people in social media space don't really like to be sold. So what can we do to just let them know we're out there? And even if you don't ever post a bit of content, you can go and check for notifications called insights. And you can see who's celebrating an anniversary or a birthday, or who just started a new position, which is great sometimes for financial advisors, is that someone is in transition, who is retiring. All of these kinds of things that we can see as we are looking through the notifications. And so it's a great way, it's a great thing to do, maybe once a week, maybe every couple of weeks, but I think once a week, and as you get into it, you might even want to do it once a day for 5 minutes. You go through and you just say, congratulations, because you can click on, so if you've got a list of see who's celebrating, you can click on that, and then you can see all the people that are celebrating a birthday or anniversary or something like that, and a work anniversary, whatever it might be, and then you could click on that and wish them congratulations, and you can make a comment. Hey, congratulations, last time we talked was XYZ. It gives you a reason to reach out. So there's different kinds of pay premiums on LinkedIn, and there's the business premium and the sales premium. There's a couple others. If you're looking to hire people, the career is good, but for the most part, the option called business or the option called sales are really the areas where, on LinkedIn specifically, that you might consider paying a little bit more. And so the question is, well, why would you do that? So here are the features that you get if you have a business premium subscription to LinkedIn. And by the way, the business premium, the prices change, so don't hold me to this, but it was $47.99 the last time I talked per month. $47.99 to have access to this, which means you can send out more in-mails. You get all sorts of different insights. You can actually search much deeper into businesses and into people. You can get different career insights into people. It's very, very helpful, especially if you're using this as a prospecting tool. Now, the Sales Navigator, which is the sales tool, there you can do more. You can send out more in-mails, which I don't know if you necessarily want to send out a bunch of in-mails, but if you're doing a seminar or something, it's very helpful to get exactly who you want invited to the event. But you can get really advanced search options, recommendations on leads. You can see who's viewed you, which I don't know. Sometimes it's really important, and I think it's important in a lot of cases if you're getting a lot of views of your profile, which means that you're getting a lot of referrals and people are looking for you. Who are these people? Because if you see who they are, you could always, it would give you some advanced insight as to maybe who's getting ready to come in and see you. You can also reach out to them directly. There's lots of things you can do. The more insight you have, the more options you have. And the Sales Navigator, the price of that, the last time I checked, again, don't hold me to it, was $64.99 a month. And the prices vary because I've actually paid more for this. So I think the prices vary on some of these things. Now, when are the best days to post on social media? I always get asked this question, and I think that it is something where only your analytics can really tell you the best days to post on social media. But there's different thoughts about this, and there's also lots of research on this. And it's different between LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter as well. But if we're just talking about LinkedIn, in general, the best days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Now, Tuesday, because Monday's usually crazy, so Tuesday's a good day. Wednesday's the middle of the week. Thursday, Friday, a lot of people take off on Friday. They're not checking their emails as much. And Saturday, they're sitting at home and they might be checking. And it's a great day, in some cases we've seen for financial advisors, to get a lot of clicks on their posts and information and interest, rather, generated if you're posting on a Saturday. Now, you can use tools like Hootsuite, and your broker-dealer might even have a tool through your social media archiving program, which allows you to set when you're going to post in advance. So you don't have to be working on Saturday posting. You could post today, you could post for the next 2 weeks. You could say, I'm going to post this article on this day, and this article on this day, and this goes to LinkedIn, and this goes to Facebook, and just have it done. But I think the key is to monitor the engagement. Because if you just do it to do it, I mean, you might get something out of it, but it would be better if you were looking at what your dashboard of metrics were. So who's actually engaging? Who is looking at what I'm doing? Who is clicking on what I'm doing? And the more, again, the more information you have, the more options you have to be able to then reach out to them, invite them to something, call them, whatever it might be. But we have a lot of information that we can gather from our social media dashboard of metrics that will allow us to post certain kinds of articles more often. Post at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday because we get a lot of action then. Post at 4 p.m. on a Saturday because we get a lot of action then. It just depends on what's happening. And so then if you have someone, again, it could just be an intern that's maybe looking at this weekly and telling you, okay, here are the posts we did, here are the connections that you have, here are the people that I've researched and found that we can add to our prospect list, here's the people we've connected to, and here's what's happening in terms of people actually engaging with the information we're putting out there. And in a 5-minute or 10-minute conversation, you can learn a lot about what's happening, and you don't actually need to do it. But again, if we think about the value of social media, it's really about just having your presence up there in the very best way possible, meaning you have your picture, you have your profile, you have done it in a way that if you knew that your very best prospect was going to look at your LinkedIn profile next Thursday, you were confident that there'd be no problem with that. Have at it, prospect. Look at my LinkedIn profile. You'll want to call me after that. If that's the case, that's great. But if it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to next Thursday and that's going to determine whether they come in and see me or not, I better get with the program and make some changes to my LinkedIn profile. And so the changes that I would recommend making if you feel like you're in that spot is to make sure that you've got a good look. It's not that you've got to, oh, I got to post all these things. It's just make sure that you have a good look. What does that include? It includes a picture of you. It includes a summary section when we're talking about LinkedIn, a summary section of your LinkedIn profile that really talks about why you're in this business. It includes having the right connections of people that are well connected to other people, so that you're going to really show well because you know a lot of these people and you're connected. You don't need to have 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. You need to have about 100 minimum, and 500 and up, it doesn't really matter because it actually just says 500 plus on when someone would view your profile. And tell them if you've got a specialization. Have a headline. Just when I showed that other slide where we were talking about the before and after of John Smith, I mean, he didn't look so great in the first place, and in the second place, he looked great because it told me everything that I needed to know right there in that front page of LinkedIn. I didn't even need to read a lot more. I go, well, this guy seems like he's pretty good, and then I actually might want to read more. So think about having those things done and ready to go on your social media profile, because it actually makes a difference. And I know that a lot of us think, I wish it didn't make a difference, or I don't actually believe that it does make a difference, but I'm here telling you that the simplest things you can do can make a big, big difference. It will share with people, well, looks like she's pretty good with technology, or, oh, wow, she really seems to be with the program, as opposed to the opposite, which is, oh my gosh, it doesn't look like she's even on LinkedIn. Maybe this got set up by accident or something. We don't want people thinking that. We want people knowing that what you've got up there convinces them that at least they should take the next step to communicate and contact and find you. So I think success is about executing on the red zone moments. For those of you that have heard me speak, I mean, the red zone is the final 20 yards before you score. It's where everything happens. And with social media, you are in the red zone, because the people that are looking have usually not randomly found you, but they have been referred to you. They are interested enough to put your name in on the keyboard on their computer to take a look at you. And what we have to make sure is that we are just giving them the online reputation that matches our regular reputation. And so I've got a few freemiums. I mentioned that we're recording this. So we are recording this presentation, and you'll get some information about that I will send to you. I think it comes out in a couple of hours, which will then have a recording available so you could listen to this again or pass it to somebody else. I also have a messaging worksheet. One of the key things about social media is to use the right words. And so if you're interested in a messaging worksheet, it kind of walks you through some questions and things to think about to better message your value, better message who you are. That's available. I've also got something, it's just a one-sheeter on the 10 things you can do to inexpensively improve your website. And these 10 things are, in some cases, like change your template, because the template is out of date. It doesn't cost you anything in some cases just to change the template, and it can literally improve everything. So we've got 10 ideas on how you can improve your website. If some of you just want these presentation slides and don't want to listen to the webinar again, you can request those. Just email Denise, and you can email her at info@redzonemarketing.com. That's info@redzonemarketing.com. And if some of you are interested in actually having us do some work on this, believe me, you can do it yourself. There is absolutely no doubt. But if you wanted us to help, we have something special just for this webinar. This is not on our website. This is not available anyplace else. But we'll do a social media upgrade, which means we'll review and implementation of messaging and graphics, which means if I look at your LinkedIn profile and I go, listen, you really need to do it. Let's write your summary section. Let's fix this whole thing up. Do you have a picture? If not, take one. We'll walk through the whole thing, and then we'll load it up. We'll do all of the work to get and we'll do up to 3, meaning that we'll do your LinkedIn profile, we will do your Facebook if you want, we will do your Twitter, and if you've got other ones that are allowed by your broker-dealer, as long as it's up to 3, we'll do it. $1,000 to do all the writing, which might be required in some cases. It's updating a bio. It's doing those kinds of things to make sure that you've got the best presence, and we do it quickly, meaning that we will do it in a few days, not weeks or months. So if you're interested in this, just let us know. Again, email info@redzonemarketing.com. But I think ultimately it's this. this is something that is not difficult to do. It's not expensive to do for you to fix your social media profiles, for you to use social media in a way that will help you boost your business. You absolutely can do it, and I hope I've given you some reasons why you should do it today. So thank you very much for joining me on this webinar, and if you have any questions, any comments, you can also email info@redzonemarketing.com, and we will answer them all. Thank you so much.